Hello, ME3610. I'm Steve Canfield. I'm your instructor in this class, and this is a preliminary introduction since I'm not going to be here on the first day of class, and I wanted to introduce myself and walk through some preliminary things, let you know what you're responsible for until we meet again. I'll be out Monday and Wednesday. I'll be back Friday, August 31st. You will, however, carry on with the class and do the normal recordings. This is ME3610, Dynamics of Machinery, Design of Machinery. We're going to talk about everything that moves. Here I have a mechanism. We'll be learning how to analyze mechanisms and design mechanisms. That's a Geneva mechanism. It's a torsion differential, gears. Anything that moves, we will learn how to design such type of devices. Okay, so the first thing I'd like to do is first thing I'll do is walk you through our class website. It's on iLearn. When you go to your iLearn homepage, you'll find your course 3610, section 2, or if you're in honors class, you should all be linked into this normal class. When we come into the class, you'll see there's two things that we use primarily. Well, I guess maybe three. Your grades will be over here. Assessments, your homeworks and quizzes are here, and then all course content is located under course materials. So I'll go to content. And on the left-hand side, we've got a table of contents that walks us through all the topics that we'll be talking about. The first one is preliminaries, course preliminaries. Then we have our first real topic, kinematic fundamentals, tools for mechanism analysis, gears, modeling, velocity, kinetostatic force with and without acceleration, cams, linkages, course design project, exam prep, and some MATLAB programming, and a few other things. Lots of stuff there. But these are the topics. We'll start at the top and work our way through. Let's first open up the first topic, which is the preliminaries. And inside the preliminaries, we have our syllabus. I guess it should say syllabus. Sorry. This is the name that they require we use. So first, let's look at the syllabus together. So here's our course syllabus. It's this 3 credit hour class this fall. We're meeting over in the big auditorium in Ray Morris Hall. That's my understanding. And the class is from 11:15 to 12:10. The textbook here is the current Norton or any previous edition. This book is suggested, not required. It is not required. You are not required to have this text. There's some other references if you're interested. Here's a course description. I encourage you to read through that. By the way, I've posted the syllabus, so I won't be handing that out. So you can just log on and get the syllabus for your own purposes. But this is the syllabus we'll be using. You can read the course objectives and student learning outcomes. One thing I do want to mention is this class, this section will have a project, and you'll be spending about 1/3 of your class time working on this project. The project's under my program called EIME, Merging Early Intervention and Mechanical Engineering. Early intervention, well, mechanical engineering is you. Early intervention is to help children with special needs from ages of birth, and we actually, usually early intervention ends at the school age, but our projects will take all kids up through high school. Typically, we have kids that are birthed to about 6 or 8, 10. You will have, since I'm not here the first day of class, and on my list to give you in the first day of class, I'll give it to you Friday when we get together, but you can start forming a team. You will form your team on your own. You need 4 class members. Go ahead and have your team together. Once your team is formed, you'll pick a project and a medical person will join you along with the family. You'll work this semester on the project need. You'll design it. Preliminary, we'll review it. You'll design it again. You do some analysis on it. You'll prototype it, test it, and then you build a final product and deliver it to them, all by the end of the semester. So it's a big, I guess maybe people are now saying a heavy lift. It's a big project, but it is rewarding, and it represents 1/3 of your grade. There's some funding. You'll have a budget. You'll document your project, and you can read more about this here. Project evaluation, all that information is found on the class website. Next, major teaching methods. This will be flipped class. That's why I'm not we're going to continue having class while I'm not here. So all the lectures will be contained online. You'll be responsible to watch those, take a quiz at the end of those, and those are all due before the class. We'll spend our time in class working on example problems, working on the design project, working on programming and various tools that engineers do. So that's how we'll spend our time in class, working together, doing the skills of engineers. You'll watch the lectures outside of class. That material is covered in iLearn. Here's the topics to be covered. Here's the grading scheme. We'll have 3 exams, 2 initial exams and a final. The final exam is a small percentage. Project is about 30% of your grade. There's homework and quizzes, and then again, exams. You can read about the exams. The exams will be given during class time. You're allowed it's closed book, one-sided note sheet you're allowed to bring in. Concept quizzes, there's 1 for each lecture. Nominally 1 per class, although it backs off later on in the semester. Here's the grading scale, student academic misconduct policy. Please read this and take academic misconduct, or really integrity in your classes seriously. If you have any, and hold me to the same standard. So at any time there's questions, let's open that up for discussion, or bring it to me privately. Attendance is expected. Class participation is also encouraged. Assignments. Okay, some assignments. Lots to do in this class. There's the project assignment. We've already talked about that. I will have you do some programming. So there'll be along the way some computer activity that we'll do together. We'll do that together somewhat, and then you'll have a small assignment. But I would look at that as small. This course project is significant. Disability accommodation. If you have already a plan in place, please share that with me and let me know what I can do. If you have any other questions or issues related to that, please bring those to me. Here's again a comment on academic responsibility. We should probably take a second and talk about your responsibility in this class and my responsibility in this class. My goal is to create an environment that's very productive for you to learn. I'm here to support you in the learning process, and so your responsibility is, to focus on that. My responsibility is the same. It does bring up questions. Sometimes, I guess there's black and white areas and there's gray areas. Gray areas would be teamwork. I find that I learn and do good work in working in teams, and I encourage you to do the same, to learn in teams, to work in teams. The exams obviously are solely independently done during an exam. Preparing for the exam, work in your groups, but the exams are completely independent. What about the homeworks? The homeworks will actually be done online as well. Often, I would assume that you would be working in groups doing homework, whether it's online or regular, and that's fine to work off each other. You need to make sure that the work that you turn in is your work. You're turning in your work. It may be your work you maybe worked with a friend, a colleague, and you learn the process together, and you both have work that's similar, but what you turn in, you're representing is your work. You did that work, okay? That's the line. If you turn something that's not your work, you just wrote copy from a friend, that is not your work. If you're working the problem together and the answer you get derives from your work, then that is your work that you turn in, okay? I know this is kind of unclear, but it is your work that you're turning in. You can work together in teams, but what you turn in has to be your own. If in doubt, bring that up. If you see people that aren't following that, I encourage you to talk to them about it. Let's have a group conversation. If I'm overlooking something, share that with me. If I'm not doing my job on this, share that with me. Lab training. You are, as part of this class, you are required to do your first safety training. Because we'll be using the shop. You may be using the shop to work on your projects. You need to get the basic training for the shop, and here they are. You have to do these 5, and this is an assignment. It's on the sheet you'll see below. You have to follow the requirements to do that. Once you get these done, you'll either get a badge or you get access to the shop to work in there. Student email policy. I'll communicate via email, so you need to make sure that you're getting my emails if you want to have the information related to class. All right, I know I'm going through this quickly. You probably have questions. We'll talk about this Friday, or you can email me. I'm assuming you got my email, but it's right here. Now let's look at the layout of the class. ME3610, this is our fall assignment sheet, and I've broken down every class. You'll see here we have the class number, You'll see here we have the topics, just kind of a name for the topics. Here we have the lectures. Again, the lectures outside of class. So this is the title associated with each lecture that you're being assigned to watch. You need to watch this lecture prior to the class. So 8:27 is the first class. There's nothing due. We will not have class. I will not be there, okay? So you stay at home. What you do is you'll start getting ready for the lecture that's for the next class. For the second class, you're responsible to have watched this lecture and taken this quiz prior to the class time. The class time is 8:29. So I've set all these to expire at 11 a.m. That gives you 15 minutes to finish that, get over to class. You can do it any other time up to 11. You can do them all right now if you like. They're all live right now. But they'll all expire at 11 o'clock before class time, right? So 8:29, this first lecture is due. Friday, 8:31, the second lecture is due, and the overview. I'll be in class on that day. We'll have lots to discuss, but we will take time and start discussing what you watched, okay? So make sure you're doing those. And that's how the schedule works, 9-5. By the class time, when you show up, you'll be expected to have watched this lecture and taken this corresponding concept quiz. You can see the lecture and the dates throughout the entire semester. This class I front load the homework and the lectures up front so that the latter half of the class you have more time for projects. So you can see we have bigger blocks of time, lesser lectures, lesser homeworks down here. So again, if it seems like a lot of work at the beginning, I've done that on purpose. So you get that work out of the way so that you'll have more time when you get to crunch time on the class. Again, here are the topics. We'll do an introduction. I'll introduce a software tool that helps you design mechanisms. We'll do gearing. Then we'll go into machines, first building mechanism models. Then we'll look at the theory behind solving the kinematics of machines. We'll look at the theory behind the velocity analysis, which is also kinematics. We'll look at force analysis. We'll look at accelerations. We'll look at more force analysis. Then we'll do a little, at the end we're tight on time, but we'll do a little bit of linkage synthesis. We'll talk a little bit about cams, and then we'll do a final project presentation. The final exam is here. I don't actually know what I think that may be an error. I don't think I have the right time on this. I already see an error. I think our final exam, I don't think that's the right time for the final exam. But everything else should be correct. Here's the homework schedule, the date that these homeworks are due. And then finally, the project deliverable schedule. So I'm going to present these projects to you when I show up on Friday. I may have a preliminary list online, but we'll present them Friday. We'll talk about them Friday. And the following class, you'll need to have formed your team, decide on the project, and submit that. That's the first thing. I'm not really giving any points for that, but you just need to do it and then meet with the class. I'm not giving points. Next, we'll have a preliminary design. I actually think I've moved that date. I see that I made a mistake here. That preliminary design date I have on the 24th. I moved it back one class. So we'll talk about that when it gets closer, but I just realized there's a typo on that. That should be the 24th. And then 3 weeks later, we'll have a final design. That puts us right at the mid-semester for your final design. Then we dive into fleshing out your design as your first prototype, your first article prototype, testing that, and then completing the final project, delivering to the family, getting family feedback, and completing your stuff on the wiki. Whew. And that's all due says the end of the day of the final. That is the absolute drop dead, absolute last date that you'll get any possible credit for this project. I recommend you target the last day of class perhaps, but the absolute last day is the end of the day of the final. A few things on the project since I have here. Other things are graded normally, exams, homework. But the project I need to talk about, there's 3 parts that go into that. It's my evaluation, the instructor's portion. There's the family and the therapist portion of the grade. And then there's the team members portion of the grade, okay? And this is broken up. This is a little bit interesting. Here's how I do that. My portion of the grade is 70%. The family or the therapist portion is 30%. Usually I find that when people deliver, the therapist or the family say it's the best thing ever, give everyone an A, so you get 100 on that. And then I'll really kick the tires on some of the practical things. But if you deliver, you know, you're 90% of the way there. But just how the weight grades work, I will be looking at some other things as well. So if you deliver, assume this is a big 30% boost. If you don't deliver, they're just going to say, I don't know, I didn't see anything, so I have nothing to grade, which I'll count as a 0. That adds up to 100%. That's what you get on your team project grade. Next, you have your team members portion of the grade. So your team members will evaluate each other, and based on this evaluation, combined with my documentation data and my observations throughout the semester, each team member will receive a percentage of the team grade, okay? If the team's working great, everyone's contributing, that will be 100%, which means, let's say your project grade was 96%, everyone worked well together. Let me pause for a second. Sorry. So your team members portion of the grade is just a percentage of what the overall grade is. Depending, in general, it's assumed that everyone's contributing equally to the team. The team's working very well, then everyone gets 100%. Sometimes team members choose not to participate, or maybe only to participate at the end. And you need to participate all the way through if you're going to get 100%. You know, if you don't participate at all, you get 0%. Occasionally, some people just go way above and beyond, and they get more than 100%. All right, and that's it for the syllabus. Okay, the next thing I want to do is walk through the website and make sure you know what you're responsible for and how you get to it. So one more time, I'm going to go to content. Actually, let's first look at the calendar. So I've given you a calendar here on the sheet that I just had pointed on the screen, but you also have your iLearn calendar, and the iLearn calendar is linked directly to the due date. So this one is the exact one. So at the moment, I have 2 classes in iLearn. You probably have several. Sorry, it's going to be a little busy. But I can see, I think the kinematics class is this, what is this, gray, pink, whatever color this is. You have kinematic fundamentals overview is due at 11 on Wednesday, as you saw. Now, just to give you a little bit of time, moved the concept quiz for the kinematic fundamentals. I moved the concept quiz to Friday. The second lecture was the kinematic fundamentals part 2, and then the corresponding quiz, the kinematic fundamentals part 2, is also due on Friday. And you can see everything's due at 11 a.m. Class starts at 11:15, so I'll give you 15 minutes to relax if you decide to wait to the end to do that. Now, a quick comment. I think that your calendar will look different, and I don't quite understand that. Since I'm the instructor, even though I choose view as banner student, it still doesn't quite work. I believe, since I'm the instructor, I think my view is a little different. I'm seeing these concept quizzes are due. I believe you will not see those concept quizzes are due. You will only see the lectures, all right? You must first watch the lecture before you have the concept quiz. So please be aware that every lecture has a corresponding quiz. If you go to the calendar and say, well, look, I only see lectures, I don't see any quizzes, I'm not going to do them. It's because you're required to watch the lecture, but the grading comes through the quiz. Okay, got it? Does that make sense? So you're responsible for the quizzes. I don't know if they show up on your screen or not, but you're still responsible for them. They will show up as soon as you watch the lecture. So what do you need to do? Every lecture has a quiz. By seeing that a lecture is assigned, they should show up on your calendar. By seeing that being assigned, you know that you have a quiz you're also responsible for. It will show up as soon as you've watched the lecture. Frankly, all you have to do, I think, is start clicking on the lecture. I think you just have to start the video, and then I think if you kick out of it, I think it may show up immediately then. We can look at September. Well, here, this is still August. I don't think we don't have classes on Monday. So you've got a lecture and a quiz due Wednesday, a lecture and a quiz due Friday. Oh, and the first homework shows up on Friday. Homework's also online. I'm making the homeworks due kind of the end of the day, 11:30 p.m. On the following Monday, there's a lecture. This is the one lecture that this doesn't actually have a quiz. That's kind of a weird one. It doesn't have a quiz at the moment. On Wednesday, we're starting gearing, and you have a lecture and a quiz and so on. So you can see that we have pretty much assume you have something to do every day at class time. So there's no class Monday or Wednesday. You've kind of got a freebie. So a good time you could start getting ahead and catching up on a few things. All right, let's take a look at a quiz just for fun. Okay. I want to take a look at the quiz. You should also be able to see all the quizzes over here in the assessments link. So I went first to assignments and then assessments, or I guess it's just called assessments here. And you can see all that's due. And so there's a mix of homeworks. They're called practice. Homeworks that are, if they don't say practice, they're actually due. So here's a homework 1 practice, homework 1 that's due, homework 2 practice, homework 2 that's due. And you should be able to also see the due date here, and it should show up on the calendar. For whatever reason, my concept quizzes are down below. So you can see the first concept quiz shows up here. And, you know, don't get too excited about these quizzes. They're not earth-shattering. They're really pretty basic. They're just to check that you've watched the lecture. But let's peek at one. So here I'm doing our very second concept quiz. This is Kinemax Overview 2. We'll start doing a quiz. And it shows up. A degree of freedom is an independent motion. I got to decide if that's true or false. Mobility is the number of degrees of freedom. Yeah, that's also true. Spatial motion, when all exists in plane. No, that's planar motion, not spatial motion. Gosh, you could almost do this just without watching, but I recommend you watch the lectures. That's why you're paying the money. Which of the following? Oh, is it spring? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it's that one. I've given my best effort in the quiz, and I go to submit the quiz, and I get my grade right here. Oops, I missed this one, and oops, I missed that one. Okay, so my score is 4.8 out of 6. Okay. And here's the class average. No one else is taking it. So that's the way the quizzes will work. Again, one last time, they show up on the calendar after you've watched the video, or they show up here. But again, I don't think they show up until you watch the video. That's just the way it's set up. You have to watch the video first, but then you'll see them. You need to make sure that you're on top of this, because if you come to me after the quiz and say, I missed it, I'll say, I'm sorry, we were very clear on the policy. And the policies, you got to watch these ahead of time. They're small credit. You got to watch them ahead of time. On the syllabus note, I do drop the 2 lowest. So I'll say, sorry, use that as one of your 2 dropped lowest quizzes. Okay, the quizzes, you only take them once. So I wouldn't just take them randomly. I would watch the lecture and then take the quiz. But, you know, for anyone that tries, they easily get 100% on the quiz. One last thing, and then we'll sign off. Notice that I have homeworks here as well. So I have homeworks assigned. All your homework's online. The advantages are you get immediate feedback and lots of time to practice, whereas if you do the homework, write it out, turn it into me, then it's going to be at least a week before you get it back. And at that point, it's ancient history, honestly. So I've chosen to go this way with the homework. There's pros and cons. You know, the pros are that you get quick feedback, lots of feedback. I'll let you take it twice. I think some of the homeworks you can do them twice. So you could try it, get a grade, try it again. And then the practices are always there. Those are the pros. The cons are it looks a little different than the homeworks. It's a little different than the way we do the problems in the class. I've tried to adapt as much as possible, but I think it's a nice middle ground. Let's go look at the homework here. Rather than looking at the practice, I'll look at actual homework. To get an idea. The early ones don't take much time. The later ones get a little more busy. This one's asking us to do mobility. It's asking for the number of links. So I've learned how to do mobility under the number of links. You know, maybe there's 100 links there. Ask for the number of joints. Maybe there's 100 joints there, or 10. The number of F1 joints and F2 joints. And then the mobility is, I'm hoping that's a 1 degree of freedom. And then I go through and I enter things. Okay, so you can see I'm given here a schematic. I'm asked questions, I fill them in, and at the end, I submit all this, and I get a grade. Lots of mechanisms there. So I submit the quiz, and then I get a corresponding grade, and I get my feedback immediately. So And in this case, it's showing me the answers. So if it shows the answers, it's probably a one-time submittal. And then here's actually the worked out solutions that you can see as well. So here on these solutions, I've worked them out by hand. Okay, I think this is a short review. I'm about to sign off. So what you need to do, you need to go ahead and start watching the lectures. You have your first stuff that's due is 11 o'clock on Friday. You're going to watch those. You might even start getting ahead. You will have homeworks that are coming up. Also, in an effort to get ahead, you might start, after you watch the first 2 lectures, you can start doing these first 2 homeworks. You can start taking the practice problems. You can do those as often as you want. Many of the practice problems also show up in the homeworks. So I'll give you lots to do. I look forward to seeing you on Friday, August 31st in Ray Morris Hall. And I look forward to talking about having the class with you. Thank you for your attention.